Sarah, we shall begin with our opening prayers. Sarah, we shall begin with our opening prayers. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Shri Sai Ram. For day 2, Auntie Kamla is with us here today to continue reading from chapter 4, unit Vittal himself appeared. Over to you, Auntie.
Okay, thank you. Are you all able to hear me well? I'm assuming you can hear, so you can? Okay. All right, I'm going to be starting from chapter 4, the section where it says, Vittal himself appeared. Sai Baba was very fond of remembering and singing God's name. He always uttered, Allah Malik, God is Lord, and in his presence made others sing God's name continuously, day and night for 7 days. This is called Nama Saptaha. Once he asked Das Ganu Maharaj to do the Nama Saptaha. He replied that he would do it, provided he was assured that Vittal would appear at the end of the 7th day. Then Baba, placing his hand on his breast, assured him that certainly Vittal would appear, but that the devotee must be earnest and devout. The Dankapuri Thakur of the Thakurnath, the Pandari of Vittal, the Dwarka of Ranchod, Krishna, is here in Shirdi. One need not go far out to see Dwarka. Will Vittal come here from some outside place? He is here. Only when the devotee is bursting with love and devotion, Vittal will manifest himself here in Shirdi. After the Saptaha was over, Vittal did manifest himself in the following manner. Kaka Sahib Dikshit was, as usual, sitting in meditation after the bath, and he saw Vittal in a vision. When he went at noon for Baba's darshan, Baba asked him point blank, Did Vittal Patil come? Did you see him? He is a very truant fellow. Catch him firmly, otherwise he will escape if you be a little inattentive. This happened in the morning, and at noon there was another Vittal Darshana. One hawker from outside came there for selling 25 or 30 pictures of Vithoba. This picture exactly tallied with the figure that appeared in Kaka Sahib's vision. On seeing this and remembering Baba's words, Kaka Sahib Dikshit was much surprised and delighted. He bought one picture of Vithoba and placed it in his shrine for worship. Bhagwant Rao Kshir Sagar's story. How fond was Baba for Vittal worship was illustrated in Bhagwant Rao Kshir Sagar's story. The father of Bhagwant Rao was a devotee of Vithoba and used to make varis, that is, annual trips, to Pandharpur. He also had an image of Vithoba at home, which he worshipped. After his death, the son stopped everything, the vari, the worship, and Shraddha ceremony, etc. When Bhagwant Rao came to Shirdi, Baba, on remembering his father, at once said, His father was my friend, so I dragged him, the son, here. He never offered Naivedya, offering of food, and so he starved Vittal and me. So I brought him here. I shall remonstrate him now and set him to worship. Das Ganu's bath in Prayag. The Hindus think that a bath in the holy Tirth of Prayag, where the Ganga and Yamuna meet, is very meritorious, and thousands of pilgrims go there at periodical times to have the sacred bath there. Once Das Ganu thought that he should go to Prayag for a bath and came to Baba to get his permission for doing so. Baba replied to him, It is not necessary to go so long. Our Prayag is here, believe me. Then, wonder of wonders, when Das Ganu placed his head on Baba's feet, out came or flowed streams of Ganga Yamuna water from both the toes of Baba. Seeing this miracle, Das Ganu was overwhelmed with feelings of love and adoration and was full of tears. Inwardly, he felt inspired, and his speech burst forth into a song in praise of Baba and his Leelas. Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi. Nobody knew the parents, birth or birthplace of Sai Baba. Many inquiries were made, many questions were put to Baba and others regarding these items, but no satisfactory answer or information has yet been obtained. Practically, we know nothing about these matters. Namdev and Kabir were not born like ordinary mortals. They were found as infants in mother of pearls, Namdev being found on the bank of Bhimrathi river by Gonai and Kabir on the bank of Bhagirathi river by Tamal. Similar was the case with Sai Baba. He first manifested himself as a young lad of 16 under a neem tree in Shirdi for the sake of bhaktas. Even then, he seemed to be full with knowledge of Brahman. He had no desire for worldly objects even in dream. He kicked out Maya, and Mukti, deliverance, was serving at his feet. One old woman of Shirdi, the mother of Nana Chopda, described him thus. This young lad, fair, smart, and very handsome, was first seen under the neem tree seated in an asan. The people of the village were wonderstruck to see such a young lad practicing hard penance, not minding heat and cold. By day he associated with none, by night he was afraid of nobody. People were wondering and asking whence this young chap had turned up. His form and features were so beautiful that a mere look endeared him to all. He went to nobody's door, always sat near the neem tree. Outwardly he looked very young, but by his action he was really a great soul. He was the embodiment of dispassion and was an enigma to all. One day it so happened that God Khandoba possessed the body of some devotee, and people began to ask him, Deva, God, you please inquire what blessed father's son is this lad, and whence did he come? God Khandoba asked them to bring a pickaxe and dig in a particular place. When it was dug, bricks were found underneath a flat stone. When the stone was removed, a corridor led to a cellar where cow mouth shaped structures, wooden boards, necklaces were seen. Khandoba said, This lad practiced penance here for 12 years. Then the people began to question the lad about this. He put them off the scent by telling them that it was his guru's place, his holy watan, and requested them to guard it well. The people then closed the corridor as before. As Ashwatha and Audumber trees are held sacred, Baba regarded this neem tree equally sacred and loved it most. Mahalsapati and other Shirdi devotees regarded this site as the resting place, Samadhisthana of Baba's Guru, and prostrate before it. The three Vadas. The site with the neem tree and surrounding space were bought by Mr. Hari Vinayak Sathe, and on this site, a big building style Sathe's Vada was erected. This Vada was the sole resting place for pilgrims who flocked there. A par platform was built around the neem tree, and lofts with steps were constructed. Under the steps, there is a niche facing south, and devotees sit on the par platform facing north. It is believed that he who burns incense there on Thursday and Friday evenings will, by God's grace, be happy. This Vada was old and dilapidated and wanted repairs. The necessary repairs, additions, and alterations have been made now by the Sansthan. Then, after some years, another Vada, Dikshit's Vada, was constructed. Kaka Sahib Dikshit, solicitor of Bombay, had gone to England. He had injured his leg by an accident there. The injury could not be got rid of by any means. Nana Sahib Chandorkar advised him to try Sai Baba. So he saw Sai Baba in 1909 AD and requested him to cure rather the lameness of his mind than that of his leg. He was so much pleased with the darshan of Sai Baba that he decided to reside in Shirdi. So he built a vada for himself and other devotees. The foundation of this building was laid on 10/12/1910. On this day, two other important events took place. Mr. Dada Saheb Kaparde was given permission to return home, and the night Aarti in Chavdi was commenced. The Vada was complete and was inhabited on the Ramanavami day in 1911 AD with due rites and formalities. Then another Vada or palatial mansion was put up by the famous millionaire Mr. Booty of Nagpur. Lots of money were spent on this building, but all the amount was well utilized as Sai Baba's body is resting in this Vada, which is now called the Samadhi Mandir. The site of this mandir had formerly a garden which was watered and looked after by Baba. Three Vadas thus sprang up, where there was none formerly. Of these, Sate's Vada was most useful to all in the early days. The story of the garden attended to by Sai Baba with the help of Baman Tatya, the temporary absence of Sai Baba from Shirdi, and his coming again to Shirdi with the marriage party of Chand Patil, the company of Devi Das, Janki Das, and Gangagir, Baba's wrestling match with Mohuddin Tamboli, residence in Masjid, love of Mr. Dangle, and other devotees and other incidents will be described in the next chapter. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. Starting of chapter 5. Return with Chand Patil's marriage party. As hinted in the last chapter, I shall now describe first how Sai Baba returned to Shirdi after his disappearance. There lived in the Aurangabad district, Nizam state, in a village called Dhoop, a well-to-do Mohammedan gentleman by name Chand Patil. While he was making a trip to Aurangabad, he lost his mare. For 2 long months, he made a diligent search but could get no trace of the lost mare. After being disappointed, he returned from Aurangabad with the saddle on his back. After traveling 4 kos and a half, he came on the way to a mango tree under the foot of which sat a Ratna, queer fellow. He had a cap on his head, wore kafni, a long robe, and had a satka, or a short stick, under his armpit, and he was preparing to smoke a chilim, or a pipe. On seeing Chand Patil pass by the way, he called out to him and asked him to have a smoke and to rest a little. The fakir asked him about the saddle. Chand Patil replied that it was of his mare, which has been lost. The queer fellow or fakir asked him to make a search in the nala close by. He went, and the wonders of wonders, he found out the mare. He thought that this fakir was not an ordinary man, but an Avaliya, a great saint. He returned to the fakir with the mare. The chilim was ready for being smoked, but 2 things were wanting: fire to light the pipe and water to wet the chapi, piece of cloth through which smoke is drawn up. The fakir took his prong, thrust it forcibly into the ground, and out came a live burning coal, which he put on the pipe. Then he dashed the satka on the ground, from whence water began to ooze. The chapi was wetted with the water, was then wrung out and wrapped around the pipe. Thus, everything being complete, the fakir smoked the chilim and then gave it also to Chand Patil. On seeing all this, Chand Patil was wonderstruck. He requested the fakir to come to his home and accept his hospitality. Next day, he went to the Patil's house and stayed there for some time. The Patil was a village officer of Dhoop. His wife's brother's son was to be married, and the bride was from Shirdi. So Patil made preparations to start for Shirdi for the marriage. The fakir also accompanied the marriage party. The marriage went off without any hitch. The party returned to Dhoop, except the fakir alone stayed in Shirdi and remained there forever. How the fakir got the name Sai. When the marriage party came to Shirdi, it alighted at the foot of a banyan tree in Bhagat Mahalsapati's field near Khandoba's temple. The carts were loosened in the open courtyard of Khandoba's temple. The carts, twice it's come. And the members of the party descended one by one, and the fakir also got down. Bhagat Mahatsapati saw the young fakir getting down and accosted him, Ya Sai, welcome Sai. Others also addressed him as Sai, and thenceforth he became known as Sai Baba. Contact with other saints. Sai Baba began to stay in a deserted masjid. One saint named Devidas was living in Shirdi many years before Baba came there. Baba liked his company. He stayed with him in the Maruti temple in the Chabudi and sometime lived alone. Then came another saint by name Janki Das. Baba spent most of his time in talking with him, or Janki Das went to Baba's residence. So also one Vaishya householder saint from Puntabbe by name Gangagir always frequented Shirdi. When he first saw Sai Baba carrying pitchers of water in both hands for watering the garden, he was amazed and said openly, Blessed is Shirdi that it got this precious jewel. This man is carrying water today, but is not an ordinary fellow. As this land, that is Shirdi, was lucky and meritorious, it secured this jewel. So also one famous saint by name Anandnath of Yavala Mutt, a disciple of Akkalkot Maharaj, came to Shirdi with some Shirdi people. When he saw Sai Baba, he said openly, This is a precious diamond in reality. Though he looks like an ordinary man, he is not a agar, ordinary stone, but a diamond. You will realize this in the near future. Saying this, he returned to Yavala. This was said while Sai Baba was a youngster. Baba's dress and daily routine. In his young days, Sai Baba grew hair on his head, never had his head shaved. He dressed like an athlete. When he went to Rahata, 3 miles from Shirdi, he brought with him small plants of marigold, jay, and jui, and after cleaning, he planted and watered them. A devotee by name Vamantatya supplied him daily with 2 earthen pitchers. With these, Baba himself used to water the plants. He drew water from the well and carried the pitchers on his shoulders. In the evening, the pitchers were kept at the foot of the neem tree. As soon as they were placed there, they were broken, as they were made of raw earth and not baked. Next day, Tatya supplied 2 fresh pitchers. This course went on for 3 years, and with Sai Baba's toil and labor, there grew a flower garden. On this site, at present, stands the big mansion, the Samadhi Mandir of Baba, which is now frequented and used by so many devotees. The story of Paduka's footprints under the neem tree. A devotee of Akkalkot Maharaj by name Bhai Krishnaji Alibakar worshipped the photo of Akkalkot Maharaj. He once thought of going to Akkalkot, that's in Sholapur district, taking the darshan of the Padukas, footprints of the Maharaj, and offering his sincere worship there. But before he could go there, he got a vision in his dream. Akkalkot Maharaj appeared in the vision and said to him, Now Shirdi is my resting place. Go there and offer your worship. So Bhai changed his plan and came to Shirdi, worshipped Baba, stayed there for 6 months and was happy. As a reminiscence of this vision, etc., he prepared the Padukas and installed them on an auspicious day of Shravan, Shaka 1834, that is 1912 AD, under the neem tree with due ceremonies and formalities conducted by Dada Kelkar and Upasani. One Dikshit Brahmin was appointed for worship and the management was entrusted to the devotee Sagun. Complete version of this story. Mr. B.V. Dev, retired Mamalatdar of Thana and a great devotee of Sai Baba, inquired about this matter with Sagun Mir Nayak and Govind Kamlakar Dikshit and has published a full version of the Padukas in Sai Leela, Volume 11, Number 1, page 25. It runs as follows. In 1834 Shaka, that is 1912 AD, one Dr. Rama Rao Kothare of Bombay came to Shirdi for Baba's darshan. His compounder and his friend Bhai Krishnaji Alibakar accompanied him. The compounder and Bhai became intimate with Sagun Mir Nayak and G.K. Dikshit. While discussing things, these persons thought that there must be some memorial of the fact of Sai Baba's first coming to Shirdi and sitting under the holy neem tree. They thought of installing Baba's Padukas there and were going to make them of some rough stones. Then Bhai's friend, the compounder, suggested that if this matter be made known to his master, Dr. Ramarao Kothare, who would prepare nice padukas for this purpose. All liked the proposal, and Dr. Kothare was informed of it. He came to Shirdi and drew a plan of the padukas. He went to Upasani Maharaj in Kandoba's temple and showed him his plan. The latter made many improvements, drew lotuses, flowers, conch, discs, man, etc., and suggested that the following shloka or verse regarding neem trees' greatness and Baba's yogic powers be inscribed. The verse was as follows. सदा निम्बर्वृक्षस्य मूलाधिवासत् सुधाश्रविणं तिक्तामपि अप्रियं तं तरुं कल्पवृक्षादिकं सदा यन्दं नमामीश्वरं सद्गुरुं साईनाथम्. Upasani's suggestions were accepted and carried out. The padukas were made in Bombay and sent to Shirdi with the compounder. Baba said that they should be installed on the Purnima, 15th of Shravan. On that day at 11 a.m., G.K. Dikshit brought them on his head from Khandoba's temple to the Dwarka Mai Masjid in procession. Baba touched the padukas, saying that these are the feet of the Lord, and asked the people to install them under foot of the neem tree. A day before, one Parsi devotee of Bombay named Pasta Sheth sent rupees 25 by money order. Baba gave this sum for the installation of the padukas. The total expense of installation came up to rupees 100, out of which rupees 75 were collected by subscriptions. For the first 5 years, G.K. Dikshit worshipped the padukas daily, and then this was done by Lakshman Kacheshwar Jakadi. In the first 5 years, Dr. Kothare sent rupees 2 per month for lighting, and he also sent the railing around the padukas. The expense of bringing the railing from the station to Shirdi was rupees 780, presently rupees 750, and 7 rupees and 50 paisa. And roofing was paid by Sagun Mir Nayak. Now Jakadi or Nana Pujari does the worship, and Sagun Mir Nayak offers the Naivedya and lights the evening lamps. Bhai Krishnaji was originally a devotee of Akkalkot Maharaj. He had come to Shirdi at the installation of the padukas in Shaka 1834 on his way to Akkalkot. He wanted to go to Akkalkot after taking... Are we reading the same thing again? Okay, yeah. In Shaka 1834 on his way to Akkalkot. He wanted to go to Akkalkot after taking the darshan of Baba. He asked Baba's permission for this. Baba said, "Oh, what is there in Akkalkot? Why do you go there? The incumbent Maharaj of that place is here, myself." Hearing this, Bhai did not go to Akkalkot. He came to Shirdi off and on after the installation of padukas. Mr. B.V. Dev concluded that Hemad Pant did not know these details. Had he known them, he would not have failed to depict them in his Satcharita. Wrestling bout with Mohadin Tamboli and change in life. To return to the other stories of Baba, there was a wrestler in Shirdi by name of Mohadin Tamboli. Baba and he did not agree on some items, and both had a fight. In this, Baba was defeated. Henceforth, Baba changed his dress and mode of living. He donned kafni, wore a langot or a waistband, and covered his head with a piece of cloth. He took a piece of sackcloth for his seat, sackcloth for his bed, and was content with very torn and worn out rags. He always said that poverty is better than kingship, far better than lordship. The Lord is always brother or befriender of the poor. Gangagir was also very fond of wrestling. While he was once wrestling, a similar feeling of dispassion came over him, and at the proper time he heard the voice of an adept saying that he should wear out his body playing with God. So he too gave up samsara and turned towards God realization. He established a mutt on the banks of the river near Puntam Bay and lived there with disciples. Sai Baba did not mix and speak with the people. He only gave answers when he was questioned. By day, he always sat under the neem tree, sometimes under the shade of a branch of a bubble tree near the stream at the outskirts of the village. In the afternoon, he used to walk at random and go at times to Nimgaon. There he frequented the house of Bala Sahib Dengale. Baba loved Mr. Bala Sahib. his younger brother named Nana Sahib, and had no son, though he married a second wife. Bala Sahib sent Nana Sahib for taking darshan of Sai Baba, and after some time with his grace, Nana Sahib got a son. From that time onwards, people began to come in numbers to see Sai Baba, and his fame began to spread and reach Ahmednagar. From thence, Nana Sahib Chandorkar and Keshav Chidambar and many others began to come to Shirdi. Baba was surrounded by his devotees during day and slept at night in an old dilapidated masjid. Baba's paraphernalia at this time consisted of a chilim, tobacco or tumbrel, that's a tin pot, long flowing kafni, a piece of cloth around his head, and a satka or a short stick, which he always kept with him. The piece of white cloth on the head was twisted like a matted hair and flowed down from the left ear on the back. This was not washed for weeks. He wore no shoes, no sandals. A piece of sackcloth was his seat for most of the day. He wore a kupin, waistcloth band, and for warding off cold, he always sat in front of a dhuni or a sacred fire facing south with his left hand resting on the wooden railing. In that dhuni, he offered as oblation egoism, desires, and all thoughts, and always uttered Allah Malik. God is the sole owner. The masjid in which he sat was only of 2-room dimensions, where all devotees came and saw him. After 1912 AD, there was a change. The old masjid was repaired and a pavement was constructed. Before Baba came to live in this masjid, he lived for a long time in a place, Takia, where, with gungur, small bells on his legs, Baba danced beautifully and sang with tender love. Turning water into oil. Sai Baba was very fond of lights. He used to borrow oil from shopkeepers and keep lamps burning the whole night in the masjid and temple. This went on for some time. The Baniyas, who supplied oil gratis, once met together and decided not to give him oil. When, as usual, Baba went to ask for oil, they all gave him a distinct no. Unperturbed, Baba returned to the masjid and kept the dry wicks in the lamps. The Baniyas were watching him with curiosity. Baba took the tumrel or the tin pot, which contained very little of just a few drops of oil, put water into it and drank it and forced it to fall in the container. After consecrating the tin pot in this way, he again took water in the tin pot and filled all lamps with it and lighted them. To the surprise and dismay of the watching Baniyas, the lamps began to burn and kept burning the whole night. The Baniyas repented and apologized. Baba forgave them and asked them to be more truthful in future. The pseudo guru Jawahar Ali. 5 years after the wrestling bout mentioned above, one fakir from Ahmednagar by name of Jawahar Ali came to Rahata with his disciples and stayed in Bakhal, or a spacious room near Veerabhadra temple. The fakir was learned, could repeat the whole Quran, and had a sweet tongue. Many religious and devout people of the village came to him and began to respect him. With the help of the people, he started to build an Eidgah, a wall before which Mohammedans pray on Eidgah day, near the Veerabhadra temple. There was some quarrel about this affair, on account of which Jawahar Ali had to leave Rahata. Then he came to Shirdi and lived in the masjid with Baba. People were captured by his sweet talk and began to call Baba his disciple. Baba did not object and consented to be his chela. Then both Guru and chela decided to return to Rahata and live there. The Guru, teacher, never knew his disciple's worth, but the disciple knew the defects of the Guru. Still, he never disrespected him, observing carefully his duties. He even served the master in various ways. They used to come to Shirdi off and on, but their mainstay was in Rahata. The loving devotees of Baba in Shirdi did not like this, that Baba should stay away from them in Rahata. So they went in a deputation to bring Baba back to Shirdi. When they met Baba near the Eidgah and told the purpose for which they came, Baba said to them that the fakir was an ill-tempered fellow, he would not leave him, and that they should better return to Shirdi without him, before the fakir returned. While they were thus talking, the fakir turned up and was very angry with them for trying to take away his disciple. There was some discussion and altercation, and it was finally decided that both the Guru and Chela should return to Shirdi. And so they returned and lived in Shirdi. But after a few days, the Guru was tested by Devi Das and he was found wanting. 12 years before Baba arrived in Shirdi with the marriage party, this Devi Das, aged about 10 or 11, came to Shirdi and lived in the Maruti temple. Devi Das had fine features and brilliant eyes, and he was dispassion incarnate and a gnani. Many persons, namely Tatya Kote, Kashinath, and others, regarded him as their guru. They brought Jawahar Ali in his presence, and in the discussion that followed, Jawahar was worsted and he fled from Shirdi. He went and stayed in Bijapur and returned after many years to Shirdi and prostrated himself before Sai Baba. The delusion that he was Guru and Sai Baba, his Chela, was cleared away, and as he repented, Sai Baba treated him with respect. In this case, Sai Baba showed by actual conduct how one should get rid of egoism and do the duties of a disciple to attain the highest end, which is self realization. This story is told here according to the version given by Mahalsapati, a great devotee of Baba. In the next chapter, will be described Ramanavami festival, the masjid, its former condition, and later improvement, etc. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. So I'll hand it over to Uncle Sudhakar now for reading chapter 6.
Before describing the Ramnavami festival and the masjid repairs, the author makes some preliminary remarks about Sadguru as follows. The efficacy of the touch of the Guru's hand. When Sadguru is the helmsman, he is sure to carry us safely and easily beyond the worldly ocean. The word Sadguru brings to mind Sai Baba, the perfect master. He appears to me as if standing before me and applying udhi, ashes, to my forehead and placing his hands of blessing on my head. Then joy fills my heart and love overflows through my eyes. Wonderful is the power of the touch of the Guru's hand. The subtle body, consisting of thoughts and desires, which cannot be burnt by the gross fire, is destroyed by the mere touch of the Guru's hand, and the sins of many past births are cleaned and washed away. Even the speech of those who feel agitated when they hear religious and godly talks attains calmness. The sight of Sai Baba's handsome form chokes our heart throat with joy, makes the eyes overflow with tears, and overwhelms the heart with emotions. It awakens in us, I am He, Soham, the Brahma consciousness, manifests the joy of self realization and dissolving the distinction of I and Thou, and makes us one with the Supreme, the one reality. When I begin to read scriptures at every step, I am reminded of my Sadguru Sai Baba, who assumes the form of Rama or Krishna and makes me listen to his life. For instance, when I sit to listen to Bhagavat, Sai becomes Krishna from top to toe, and I think he sings the Bhagavat or Uddhav Gita, the song of teachings by Lord Sri Krishna to his disciple Uddhav, for the welfare of the devotees. When I myself start to write anything, I cannot compose a few words or sentences, but when he, of his own accord, makes me write, I go on writing, and there is no end to it. When the disciple's egoism props up, he presses it down with his hand and gives him his own power, makes him gain his object, and thus satisfies and blesses him. If anyone prostrates before Sai and surrenders heart and soul to him, then all the chief objects of life, namely dharma, righteousness, artha, wealth, kama, desire, and moksha, deliverance, are easily and attained unsolicitedly. Four paths, namely of karma, dhyana, yoga, and bhakti, lead us separately to God. Of the path of these, the path of bhakti is thorny and full of pits and ditches, and thus difficult to traverse. But if you, relying on the Sadguru, avoid the pits and thorns and walk straight, it will take you to the destination, God. So says Sai Baba. After philosophizing about the self existence Brahma, His power, the Maya, to create this world and the world created, and stating that all these are three are ultimately one and the same. The author quotes Sai Baba's words guaranteeing the welfare of the bhaktas. There will never be any dearth or scarcity regarding food and the clothes in my devotees' home. It is my special characteristic that I always look to and provide for the welfare of those devotees who worship me wholeheartedly with their minds ever fixed on me. Lord Krishna has also said in same in the Gita, therefore, strive not much for food and clothes. If you want anything, beg of the Lord, renounce the worldly honors, try to get the Lord's grace and blessings, and be honored in his court. Do not be deluded by worldly honor. The form of the deity should be firmly fixed in the mind, that all the senses and the mind be ever devoted to the worship of the Lord. Let there be no attraction for any other thing. Fix the mind in remembering me always, so that it will not wander elsewhere towards body, wealth, and home. Then it will be calm, peaceful, and carefree. This is the sign of the mind being well engaged in good company. If the mind is vagrant, it cannot be well merged in him. After quoting these words, the author goes on to relate the story of Ram Navami festival in Shirdi. As Ram Navami is the most celebrated festival at Shirdi, another fuller account is published in Sri Sai Leela magazine of 1925, page 197, is also referred to, and a summary of the festival as related in both these accounts is attempted here. The origin. One Mr. Gopal Rao Gund was a surveyor in the survey department at Kopargaon. He was a great devotee of Baba. He had three wives but had no issue. With Sai Baba's blessing, a son was born to him. In the joy that he felt due to this and celebrating a fair or urus occurred to him in the year 1897, and he placed it for consideration before other Shirdi devotees, namely Tatya Patil, Dada Kote Patil, and Madhav Rao Deshpande, Shama. They all approved of the idea and got for it Sai Baba's permission and blessings. Then an application for getting the collector's sanction of celebrating the Urus was made, but as the village Kulkarni reported against holding the fair, the sanction was refused. But as Sai Baba had blessed it, they tried again and ultimately succeeded in getting the collector's sanction. The day for the Urus was fixed on the Ram Navami day after having consultation with Sai Baba. It seems he had some purpose in this, namely the unification of the two festivals, the Urus and the Ram Navami, and the unification of the two communities, the Hindus and the Mohammedans. As future events showed, this end or object was duly achieved. Though the permission was obtained, but other difficulties cropped up. Shirdi was a village and there was scarcity of water. There were two wells in the village. The one in use dried up soon, and the water from the second was brackish. This brackish water was turned sweet by Sai Baba by putting flowers into it. As the water of this well was insufficient, so Tatya Patil had to arrange to get water from outside. Temporary shops were to be constructed and wrestling bouts arranged, and Gopal Rao Gund and a friend by name Damu Anna Kasar of Ahmednagar. He was also similarly unhappy in the matter of progeny, though he had two wives. He too was blessed by Sai Baba with sons, and Mr. Gund prevailed upon his friend to prepare and supply one flag for the procession of the fair. He also succeeded in inducing Mr. Nana Sahib Nimondkar to supply another flag. Both these flags were taken in procession through the village and finally fixed at the two corners of the masjid, which is called by Sai Baba as Dwarka Mai. This is being done even now. The sandal procession. There was another procession which was started in this fair. This idea of the sandal procession originated with one Mr. Amir Shakkar Dalal, a Mohammedan Bhakta of Korgla. This procession is held in the honor of the great Muslim saints. Sandal, i.e., chandan, paste, and scrapings are put in the thali in flat dishes and carried with incense burning before them in a procession to the accompaniment of the band and music through the village, and then, after to the masjid, the contents of the dishes are thrown on the nimbar, niche, and the walls of the masjid with hands. This work was managed by Amir Shakkar for the first 3 years and then afterwards by his wives. So on the same day, the two processions, the flags by the Hindus and that of the sandal by the Muslims, went on side by side and are still going on without any problem. Arrangement. This day was very dear and sacred to the devotees of Sai Baba. Most of them turned up for the occasion and took part in the management of the fair. Tatya Kote Patil looked at all outward affairs while the internal management was entirely left to Radha Krishnamai, a female devotee of Baba. Her residence was full of guests on the occasion and she had to look after their needs and also arrange for all the paraphernalia of the fair. Another work which she willingly did was to clean and whitewash the entire masjid, its walls and floor, which were blackened and were full of soot on account of the ever burning dhuni, the sacred fire of Sai Baba. This work she did during the night when Sai Baba went to sleep every alternate day in the Chavadi. She had to take out all the things, including the dhuni, and after thorough cleaning and whitewashing, replace them as they were before. Feeding the poor, which was so dear to Sai Baba, was also a great item in this fair. For this purpose, cooking on a grand scale and preparing various sweet dishes was done in Radhakrishna Mai's lodging, and various rich and wealthy devotees took a leading part in this affair. The transformation of Urus into the Ram Navami festival. Things were going on this way, and the fair was gradually increasing in importance till 1912, when a change took place. That year, one devotee, Mr. Krishna Rao Yogeshwar Bhisham, the author of the Sai Sagunapasana, came to the fair with Dada Sahib Kaparde of Amaravati and was staying on the previous day in Dikshitwada. While he was lying on the veranda and while Mr. Lakshman Rao, alias Kaka Mahajani, was going with puja materials to the masjid, a new thought arose in his mind and he accosted the latter thus. There is some providential arrangement, the fact that the Urus or fair is celebrated in Shirdi on Ram Navami Day. The Ram Navami Day is very dear to all the Hindus. Then why not begin the Ram Navami festival, the celebration of the birth of Sri Ram, on this day here? Kaka Mahajani liked the idea and was arranged to get Baba's permission in this matter. The main difficulty was how to secure Haridas, who would do kirtan and sing the glories of the Lord on the occasion. But Bhisham solved the difficulty by saying that his Ram Akhyan, the composition of Ram's birth, was ready and he would do the kirtan himself. While Kaka Mahajani should play on the harmonium, it was all arranged to get Suntawada, the ginger powder mixed with sugar as prasad, prepared by Radhakrishna Mai. So they immediately went to the masjid to get Baba's permission. Baba, who knew all things and what was happening there, asked Mahajani as to what was going on in the Wada. Being rather perturbed, Mahajani could not catch the purport of his question and remained silent. Then Baba asked him, Bhisham, what he had to say. He explained the idea of celebrating Ram Navami festival and asked for Baba's permission, and Baba gladly gave it. All rejoiced and made preparations for the Jayanti festival. Next day, the masjid was decorated with buntings. A cradle was supplied by Radhakrishna Mai and placed in front of Baba's seat for the proceedings started. Bhisham stood up for the kirtan, Mahajani played on the harmonium, and Sai Baba sent a man to call Mahajani. He was hesitating to go, doubting whether Baba would allow the festival to go on, but when he went to Baba, the latter asked him to what was going on and why the cradle was placed there. He answered that the Ram Navami festival had commenced and the cradle was put on for that purpose. Then Baba took a garland from the nimbar and placed it round his neck and sent another garland for Bhisham. When the kirtan commenced, when it came to close, The pound sounds of victory to Ram went up, and Gulal, the red powder, was thrown up all around amidst band and music. Everybody was overjoyed, when suddenly a roar was heard. The red powder, thrown promiscuously, went up and somehow fell into Baba's eyes. Baba got wild and began to scold and abuse loudly. People were frightened by this and began to take to their heels. The intimate devotees who knew Baba well took these scoldings and outpourings of Baba as a blessing in disguise. They thought that when Ram was born, it was proper for Baba to get wild and enraged to kill Ravan and his demons in the form of egoism and wicked thoughts, etc. Besides, they knew that whenever a new thing was undertaken at Shirdi, it was usual with Baba to get wild and angry. They just kept quiet. Radha Krishnamai was rather afraid and thought of that Baba might break her cradle, and she asked Mahajani to pull the cradle back. When he went to loosen and unfasten the cradle, Baba went to him and asked him not to remove it. Then, after some time, Baba became calm, and that day's program, including the Mahapuja and Arati, was finished. Later on, Mahajani asked Baba for permission to remove the cradle. Baba refused, the same saying that the festival was not yet finished. Next day, another kirtan and Gopalakal ceremony, an earthen pot containing parched rice mixed with curd is hung to be broken after the kirtan and the contents distributed to all, as was done by Lord Krishna amongst his cowherd friends, was performed, and then Baba allowed the cradle to be removed. While the Ram Navami festival was thus going on, the procession of the two flags by day and that of the sandal by night went off with usual pomp and show. From this time onwards, the Urus of Baba was transformed into the Ram Navami festival. From the next year, 1913, the items in the program of Ram Navami began to increase. Radha Krishnamai started a Nama Saptaha, singing the glory of God's name continuously day and night for 7 days, from the 11th day of Chaitra. For this, all devotees took part by turns, and she joined sometimes early in the morning. As Ram Navami festival is celebrated in many places all over the country, the difficulty of getting a Haridas was felt again. But for 5 or 6 days before the festival, Mahajani incidentally met Balabua, who was known as the modern Tukaram, and got him to do the Kirtan that year. The next year, 1914, another Balabua Satarkar of Pirhad Siddha Kavate, district Satara, could not act as a Haridas as his own town, as plague was prevailing there, and so he came to Shirdi. With Baba's permission, which was secured to Kaka Sahib Dikshit, he did the Kirtan and was sufficiently recompensed for his labor. The difficulty of getting new Haridas every year was finally solved from 1914 by Sai Baba, as he entrusted this function to Das Ganu Maharaj permanently, and since that time has been successfully and credibly conducting that function up till now. Since 1912, this festival began to grow gradually year by year. From the 8th to the 12th of the Chaitra, Shirdi looks like a beehive of men. Shops began to increase. Celebrated wrestlers took part in wrestling bouts. Feeding of the poor was done on a grander scale. Hard work and sincere efforts of Radha Krishnamai turned Shirdi into a Sansthan, a state. Paraphernalia increased. A beautiful horse, a palanquin, a chariot, and many silver items, utensils, pots, buckets, pictures, mirrors, etc. were presented. Elephants were also sent for the procession. Though all this paraphernalia increased enormously, Sai Baba ignored all these things and maintained his simplicity and modesty as before. It is to be noted that both Hindus and Mohammedans have been working in unison in both processions during the entire festival, and there has been no confrontation or quarrel between them at all so far. First, about 5,000 to 7,000 people used to gather, but that figure went up to 75,000 in some years. Still, there was no outbreak of any epidemic, disease, or any riots worth the name during so many past years. Now, the repairs to the masjid. Another important idea occurred to Gopal Gund. Just as he started the Uruzar fair, he thought that he should repair and renovate the masjid. So, in order to carry out the repairs, he collected stones and got them dressed. But this work was not assigned to him. This was reserved for Nana Sahib Chandorkar and the pavement work for Kaka Sahib Dikshit. Initially, Baba was unwilling to allow them to have these works done. But with the intervention of Mahal Sapati, a local devotee of Baba, his permission was secured. Baba took a small gadi for his seat, discarding the usual piece of sackcloth used till then. In 1911, the Sabha Mantap courtyard was also put in order with great labor and effort. The open space in front of the masjid was very small and inconvenient. Kaka Sahib Dikshit wanted to extend it and put a roofing on it. At great expense, he got some iron posts, pillars, and trusses and started the work. At night, all the devotees worked hard and fixed the posts. But Baba, when he returned from the Chavadi next morning, uprooted them all and threw them out. Once it so happened that Baba got very excited, caught a pole with one hand and began to shake and uproot it, and with the other hand caught the neck of Tatya Patil. He took by force Tatya Patil's, struck a match, set it on fire, and threw it in a pit. At that time, Baba's eyes flashed like burning embers. None dared to look at him. All got terribly frightened. Baba took out a rupee from his pocket and threw it there as if it were an offering on an auspicious occasion. Tatya was also much frightened. None knew what was going on to happen to Tatya, and none dared to interfere. Bhagoji Shinde, the leper devotee of Baba, made a bold advance. But he was pushed aside by Baba. Madhav Rao was also similarly treated, pelted with brick pieces. So all those who went to intercede were similarly dealt with. But after some time, Baba's anger cooled down. He sent for the shopkeeper, got from him an embroidered feta, and himself tied it on Tatya's head as he was giving him a special honor. All the people were wonderstruck to see the strange behavior of Baba. They were at a loss to know what enraged Baba so suddenly, what led him to assault Tatya Patil, and why his anger cooled down the next moment. Baba was sometimes very calm and quiet, talked sweet things with love, but suddenly, with or without any pretext, got enraged. Many such incidents may be related, but I do not know which to choose and which to omit. I therefore refer to them as they occur to me. In the next chapter, the question whether Baba was a Hindu or a Mohammedan will be taken up, and his yogic practices and powers and other matters will also be dealt with. Bow to Sri Sai Baba. Peace be to all. Chapter 7. The Wonderful Incarnation. Sai Baba knew all yogic practices. He was very well versed in the 6 processes, including dhauti, stomach cleaning, by a moistened piece of linen 3 inches in breadth and 22 inches in length. Khanda Yoga, separating his limbs and joining them again, and Samadhi, etc. If you think that he was a Hindu, he looked like a Yavan. If you think him to be a Yavan, he looked like a pious Hindu. No one definitely knew whether he was a Hindu or a Mohammedan. He celebrated the Hindu festivals of Ram Navami with all due formalities, and at the same time permitted the sandal procession of the Mohammedans. He encouraged the wrestling bouts in this festival. When the Gokulashtami came, he got the Gopalakala ceremony duly performed. And on Eid festivals, he allowed the Mohammedans to say their prayers, the namaz, in his masjid. Once, during a Muharram festival, some of the Mohammedans proposed to construct a tazia or a tabut in the masjid, keeping it there for some days and afterward taking it in procession through the village. Sai Baba allowed the keeping of the tabut for 4 days, and on the 5th day got removed from the masjid without the least compunction. If we say that he was a Mohammedan, his ears were pierced, had holes according to Hindu custom. If you then think he was a Hindu, he advocated the practice of circumcision. Though according to Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who observed him closely, he was not himself circumcised. Quite article in Sai Leela on Baba Hindu Ki Yavan. by B.V. Dev, page 562. If you call him Hindu, he always lived in the masjid. If Mohammedan, he'd always the dhuni fires there, sacred fire there, and the following things which are contrary to the Mohammedan religion, i.e., grinding on the handmill, blowing on the conch and the bells, oblations in the fire, bhajan, giving of food and worship for Baba's feet by means of arghya, were allowed there. If you think that he was a Mohammedan, the best of the Brahmins and the Agnihotris, leaving aside their orthodox ways, fell prostrate at his feet. Those who went to make enquiries about his caste were dumbfounded and were captured by his darshan. So none could definitely decide whether Sai Baba was a Hindu or a Mohammedan. There is no wonder, for he who completely surrenders himself to the Lord by getting rid of his egoism and body consciousness, thus becomes one with him and has nothing to do with any questions of caste or nationality. Baba saw no difference between two castes and even between beings. He took meat and fish with the fakirs, but did not grumble when the dogs touched the dishes with their mouths. Such a unique and wonderful incarnation was Sai Baba. On account of the merits in my past birth, I had the good fortune to sit at his feet and enjoy his blessed company. The joy and the delight I derived therefrom was incomparable. In fact, Sai Baba was pure Ananda, consciousness. I cannot sufficiently describe him, his greatness and uniqueness. He took delight at his feet. Was established in his own self. Many sannyasis, sadhaks, and all sorts of men aspiring for salvation came to Sai Baba. He always walked, talked, and laughed with them and always uttered Allah Malik. God is the sole owner. He never liked discussion or disputation. He was always calm and controlled, though irritable at times, always preached Vedanta, and nobody knew till the last who was Baba. Princes and poor people were treated alike by him. He knew the inmost secrets of all. When he gave expression to them, all were surprised. He was the repository of all knowledge. Still, he feigned ignorance. He also disliked honor. Such were the characteristics of Sai Baba. Though he had a human body, his deeds testified to his godhead. All people considered him as the God in Shirdi. Behavior of Sai Baba. Ignorant that I am.
Sorry, we'll take a pause here since we're nearing 9:30.
Okay.
And we'll continue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sai Ram.
We'll just have our closing prayers before we close for today. Sai Satcharita Reading. Satyadevaya Dhimahi Anna Sarva Prachodayat. Sai Satcharita Reading Satyadevaya Dhimahi Anna Sarva Prachodayat. Sai Satcharita Reading Satyadevaya Dhimahi Anna Sarva Prachodayat. Shanti 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 Samasta Lokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Lokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Lokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shri Sai Ram. Thank you, Auntie Kamala and Uncle Sudhakar, for walking us through chapters today. Thank you all for joining. See you all tomorrow at 8:30.
Thank you. Thank you. Sai Ram.